Lots of people getting in touch this morning, saying like what one of those callers actually did there, Ali McCoist, about the blame isn't just on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. This message came in earlier on saying Maguire should have the armband taken off him and Pogba is running down his contract. No heart, no soul, should never play again for Manchester United. He does then go on to say some criticism for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as well, but you do feel like the blame should be bandied around a little bit as well after that performance yesterday. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was asked whether he thinks he'll keep his job.
Well, I've heard nothing else, and I'm still thinking about tomorrow's work. Of course, we're all low. I can't say now that I've felt any worse than this, because this is the worst I've been, the lowest I've been. And as I've said, I accept the responsibility, and that is mine today, and it's mine going forward.
Okay, let's get more reaction on this. The Guardian's Jamie Jackson was at Old Trafford yesterday and joins us now. Good morning, Jamie.
Good morning, Jamie. How are you this morning?
Very well, thank you. You okay?
Yeah,
we're fine,
good.
Jamie. We're fine. That was clearly that the way the events turned out at Old Trafford yesterday. This was going to be the main talking point this morning. That's certainly been the case. What was your take on it, mate?
Well, it's got to be the worst I've seen under Solskjaer, and actually in doing this job, which is nearly 10 years, probably is the worst they've ever played. If you consider, the opposition, the squad that he's added to, in this summer with Varane, Sancho, Cristiano Ronaldo, the fact they finished second and they're going backwards at a rate of knots. And I'd argue, or I'd certainly suggest it might be the worst, they've ever played in the Premier League. They've never been 4-0 down at half time. And, I just looked at it and I thought it was kind of the same goal each time that Liverpool scored. Liverpool were good, don't get me wrong, but they weren't absolutely amazing. But each time they wanted to sort of, let's say wander through the midfield.
Yeah.
When I'm using that word, I mean as in United are letting them sort of go for a stroll. I'm not saying they were slow, but you know what I mean? Liverpool were just sort of doing what they wanted. And 5-0 is embarrassing, but, and I don't say this sort of simply, it could have been maybe 10 or 11. So it was a bit of a joke of a performance from United, and fair play to Liverpool because it's a famous day for them.
Yeah.
I think you're right, Jamie. I think Liverpool were absolutely excellent. You've got to take that into account, and also that they're playing a man that's arguably the one, if not the best player in the world at this moment in time, Salah. But that said, Jamie, I'm watching the game, Mary, and I'm having to look at the goals again through replays because I'm saying to myself, where's the centre back? Where's the left back? They were just all over the place. I actually had to look at it again just to say, what is actually going wrong here?
Well, I was doing marks with my job yesterday for the Guardian. I actually gave Maguire, apart from Pogba who got sent off, I gave him a 1, and he was lucky to get that. I gave Maguire a 2, and I described him as a boy against the Liverpool men. Now, that might sound a bit harsh, but he's the Manchester United captain, as you just said then, Ali. Those goals, there's a mix-up with Shaw. He's which was unbelievable. I mean, it's the sort of stuff that, I've got a boy, and when he played sort of he's 4 or 5 years old, playing, little boys football. If you saw that, yeah, you could understand it. They're just little kids. But you understand what I mean? It was like that. Lindelof, where was he? Wan-Bissaka, the defence. The only one who did their job, and again, it's always the thing, it's not a great sign, was David De Gea. He was blameless for all goals, and again, he was excellent. But that was it. All 10 outfield players. Rashford, the game passed him by. He was sort of a bit of a cul-de-sac merchant. Every time he had a dribble, he sort of just found the wrong option. Defenders round him. You could go through the whole team really. But yeah, I mean, as a midfield, defensive unit, they were absolutely awful. Nowhere near what any football team should be. I mean, this is the point here, right? You can at any level of football, there's simple stuff which. Yeah, you can get wrong, but you don't want to get it wrong 4 or 5 times on the same game, and actually 4 times in the same half because you're 4-0 down at half time. So it was, and obviously, with regard to Solskjaer, you're thinking. I mean, he was asked, and I don't think it was disrespectful. He was asked. You always put this. You always like to say you put the club first. Would you consider resigning? And that's kind of where we're at now, because look at the results. I think it's 1 point from 12. They haven't won in the league since West Ham away, which I think was September. You could go through all these statistics, but they're now 8 points off the lead, I believe. They'll be lucky to get a Europa League qualification spot on the current form. And as I say, what has happened here? Because they were second last season. Now you could say Van Dijk was injured and they had a centre back problem at Liverpool. They definitely did, and maybe that allowed them to be a slightly higher than they might have been Manchester United last season. But you understand what I mean? They're going backwards, having added those 3 players that I mentioned.
What also I think would be a massive negative is when your senior players start to lose their or start to vent their frustration, lose their composure, and start to get booked or sent off. And I thought that with Ronaldo and with Pogba as well. Pogba coming off the bench and getting sent off. You just think, come on, guys, it's bad enough without you doing that.
Yeah, no, it's a great point, Laura, because that, as you say, that really says it all. And I've got to say, Paul Pogba, inverted commas, flying into a tackle is a bit of a collector's item. So if you're going to do it, make sure you don't. I mean, hopefully Keita's okay, but yeah, I mean, for me, as soon as when I saw the replay, I thought, yeah, he's probably going to be sent off here. And it's just everywhere you look. I mean, choose your adjectives. It was a farce. It was a debacle. It was just a disaster. It was, and against Liverpool as well. We all know football is not cheap, right? To attend, and as you mentioned there, as was mentioned there in the clip, supporters were leaving. I think as early as the sort of 37, 38 minutes. From where we were sitting in the press seats at Old Trafford. If you can imagine, just above the manager's
Have you seen
benches.
that before, Jamie? Have you ever seen that before?
Well, that's a good question. I'm not sure I have. Maybe under Moyes, but going back a few years. But basically, the answer is no. Especially when you've got this squad, you've got Ronaldo on the pitch. I mean, it just shows how, and fair play to the fans, because as I say, they've got every right to walk out on that basis when they're paying a lot of money. They've got all this emotional investment. And, there were some boos at half-time, and I think rightly so. But generally, at the end, the boos weren't quite as strong, and they kind of basically stayed with the team. And, Maguire apologising afterwards. Okay, you've apologised, but come on, gentlemen, sort it out on the pitch, really. You're supposed to be, all of you are supposed to, supposedly are top professionals who you should be your own manager, I always think. At the very elite level of anything, actually, you should be your own manager. You should be able, you don't necessarily need the manager to sort out problems on the pitch. Otherwise, why are you playing for Manchester United? Why are you paid all this money? You understand what I mean? And where is that? What's going on there? How can you allow, basically, 4 or 5 goals basically in the same manner? So, where he goes from here, Solskjaer, I'm not too sure. I mean, if you ask me, will he go? This is what we're trying to establish today. I mean, the mood music last night was, no, they're sticking with him. But who knows in football? It only takes Joe Glazer, who basically runs the sort of Glazer family's ownership, only takes, him, conversation with Woodward, Edward would be talking to decide, right, enough is enough. We've spent all this money. We're now, the clocks haven't even gone back. We're basically out the title race. Maybe the Champions League spots as well. Maybe it is time for a change, but who knows? So we'll try and establish that today.
Okay, Jamie, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thanks, Jamie.
Lovely to speak to you, mate. Take care. That's the Guardian's Jamie Jackson, who was at Old Trafford yesterday. Just as well, a tweet that I saw earlier on. It's called Price of Football. It's Kevin Maguire who tweeted this out. In the past decade, Manchester United have earned over 1.4 billion in revenue, more than Liverpool, and they spent 310 million more on wages and 600 million more on net transfers. So that's in the last 10 years, basically. Just a comparison with the teams. And in the last 5, we know which direction Liverpool have been going, and we know which direction Manchester United are going as well. So perhaps the problem isn't necessarily what they're investing it in, or is it what they're investing it in, Ali?
I've got to say, if those figures are correct, that's absolutely unbelievable. I knew there would be a margin, but that's gigantic, and it just shows you the bad business that United have currently gone through in the last decade. But I mean, the fans, they'll wake up this morning, would you? I mean, they'll be angry, they'll be disappointed, they'll be. It's amazing. I was shocked watching it. I really was shocked watching it. And I know you touched on it, quite right to touch on that question there with Jamie. I thought the final nail in the coffin was Pogba's stupid challenge, you know what I mean? And that's the last thing you need, particularly from your more experienced players.
talkSPORT Breakfast with Laura Woods. Monday to Wednesday mornings 6 till 10. On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.